The airport shuttle ride dragged on interminably as Elise fidgeted with restless anticipation, her mind consumed by a gnawing sense of unease. She couldn't pinpoint the source of her discomfort, but it had persistently nagged at her throughout the business trip, culminating in an irrepressible urge to return home earlier than scheduled. As the shuttle pulled into her upscale suburban neighborhood, Elise's apprehension escalated upon noticing the unusual flurry of activity around her house. Unfamiliar cars lined the street, and the muffled thump of music pulsed from within. Perplexed, she hastened up the driveway and through the front door, only to be greeted by a chaotic scene that defied comprehension. Her immaculate living room had been transformed into a raucous party venue, teeming with strangers indulging in revelry, while her husband Carter played the gracious host. "Elise," Carter exclaimed, his expression a mixture of surprise and unease. "You're back early. I didn't expect you until tomorrow." "What is going on here?" Elise demanded, her voice strained with bewilderment and mounting anger. Carter's unconvincing attempt at nonchalance only fueled her suspicions. "Just a little impromptu gathering with some colleagues and friends, nothing to worry about." As Elise scanned the crowded room, her gaze landed on a familiar face. Marcella, her childhood friend, engaged in an all-too-friendly interaction with Carter. A sickening knot formed in her stomach, but before she could confront them, a stranger approached her discreetly. "You deserve to know the truth," the stranger whispered, pressing a flash drive into Elise's hand, before melting back into the raucous throng. Elise's fingers tightened around the mysterious device, her mind reeling with implications and unanswered questions. The once idyllic homecoming had transformed into a maelstrom of doubt and betrayal, setting the stage for a reckoning that would forever shatter the illusion of her perfect life. With trembling hands, Elise inserted the mysterious flash drive into her laptop, her heart pounding with trepidation. As the files loaded, a sickening realization washed over her. The content revealed explicit videos of Carter engaged in intimate acts with none other than Marcella. Bile rose in Elise's throat as she watched the sordid recordings, each time-stamped to coincide with her business trips. The evidence of their brazen betrayal was undeniable, unfolding in graphic detail before her disbelieving eyes. Rage and heartbreak consumed her, but she forced herself to remain composed, resolving to confront Carter and demand answers. As he sauntered into the bedroom, his nonchalant demeanor infuriated her further. "What is the meaning of this?" Elise spat, thrusting the laptop toward him. Carter's expression shifted from confusion to panicked realization as the incriminating footage played out. "Elise, it's not what it looks like," he stammered unconvincingly. "Don't insult my intelligence," she hissed. "How long has this been going on?" Carter's shoulders slumped in defeat. "A few months," he admitted sheepishly. "It started as a harmless flirtation, but things spiraled out of control." "With my best friend?" Elise shook her head in disbelief. "How could you betray me like this?" "It didn't mean anything," Carter pleaded. "It was just a fling, a moment of weakness. I still love you, Elise." His pathetic justifications only stoked the flames of her fury. "Love? You have a twisted perception of love if you think this is acceptable behavior." Marcella's voice carried from the living room calling out for Carter. Elise's blood boiled at the audacity of her presence in their home. "She needs to leave," Elise demanded, her voice trembling with barely contained rage. Carter's expression hardened. "Don't overreact, Elise. It's not that big of a deal." His dismissive attitude ignited a newfound determination within her. If he refused to acknowledge the gravity of his betrayal, she would make him suffer the consequences. "Get out!" she seethed. "Both of you. Pack your things and get out of my house." Carter opened his mouth to protest, but the blazing fury in Elise's eyes silenced him. Recognizing the weight of his transgressions, he slunk away, leaving Elise to plot her retribution against those who had so callously shattered her world. In the aftermath of Carter's forced departure, Elise found herself consumed by a relentless drive for justice. The raw wounds of betrayal fueled her determination to uncover the full extent of his deception. She scoured through their financial records, meticulously dissecting every transaction. To her growing dismay, she uncovered discrepancies that hinted at something more sinister than a mere affair. Funds appeared to be siphoned from her family's business accounts. Elise's grip tightened around the damning documents as the realization dawned upon her. Carter and Marcella's duplicity extended far beyond the bedroom. They had been systematically embezzling from the company, exploiting Elise's trust for their own financial gain. Seething with fury, she sought legal counsel, determined to protect her family's legacy and hold the treacherous pair accountable. Her attorney, a seasoned professional named Thomas, listened intently as she laid out the evidence. "This is a clear case of breach of trust and financial misconduct," Thomas stated grimly. "We have a strong case against them, but we'll need ironclad proof to ensure their conviction." Elise nodded resolutely. "I'll do whatever it takes to bring them to justice." Over the following weeks, she immersed herself in gathering evidence, scouring digital records, and meticulously documenting every transgression. The more she uncovered, the deeper the rabbit hole of deceit seemed to go. One evening, as she pored over the mounting pile of incriminating documents, her phone buzzed with an incoming call from an unknown number. Hesitantly, she answered. "Elise, it's me, Theo," a familiar voice crackled through the line. Theo, her once distant cousin, a skilled computer forensics expert, had always maintained a polite distance. Elise was taken aback by his unexpected reach-out. "I heard about what happened," Theo continued. "I know we haven't been close, but I want to help you take those bastards down." Elise's heart swelled with gratitude and newfound determination. With Theo's expertise on her side, she felt emboldened to pursue her quest for justice against Carter and Marcella's web of lies and greed. "All right, Theo," she replied, her voice steeled with resolve. "Let's make them pay for what they've done." As she ended the call, Elise's gaze fell upon the damning evidence before her, a tangible reminder of the betrayal she had suffered. But now, with an unexpected ally in her corner, the prospect of exacting righteous vengeance burned ever brighter. With Theo's unexpected offer of assistance, a newfound sense of determination surged within Elise. She wasted no time in arranging a clandestine meeting with her cousin, eager to leverage his expertise in uncovering the full extent of Carter and Marcella's betrayal. They convened at a discreet cafe, the air thick with tension as Elise laid out the damning evidence she had collected thus far. Theo's brow furrowed as he pored over the documents, his fingers flying across the keyboard as he delved into the digital trail. "This is just the tip of the iceberg," Theo muttered, his voice laced with grim resolution. "They've been meticulous in covering their tracks, but no one is untraceable in the digital age. For hours they worked in silent collaboration, sifting through financial records, email correspondence, and any shred of data that could shed light on the conspiracy." Theo's skills proved invaluable, unearthing encrypted files and uncovering hidden money trails that exposed the depth of Carter and Marcella's duplicity. As the evidence mounted, a chilling realization dawned upon Elise. The betrayal extended far beyond her personal circle. Some of her trusted associates and business partners had been complicit in the embezzlement scheme, lining their own pockets at the expense of her family's legacy. "Those snakes," Elise spat, her hands trembling with fury as she studied the incriminating documents. "They were all in on it, playing me for a fool." Theo placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We've got them now, Elise. There's no way they can wriggle out of this." With each passing day, the web of deceit unraveled further, exposing the intricate machinations of Carter and Marcella's greed-fueled conspiracy. Elise found herself consumed by a burning desire for retribution, a reckoning that would strip them of their ill-gotten gains and restore her family's honor. As the sun set on another grueling day of investigation, Elise's gaze hardened with resolve. "It's time to set the trap," she declared, her voice steely with determination. Theo nodded, a hint of admiration flickering in his eyes. "Lead the way. I'll make sure they can't escape the consequences of their actions." With a plan taking shape, Elise felt the weight of justice on her shoulders. She would stop at nothing to expose the treacherous cabal and reclaim what was rightfully hers, no matter the cost. Armed with the overwhelming evidence of Carter and Marcella's deceit, Elise wasted no time in setting her meticulously crafted plan into motion. With Theo's invaluable assistance, she orchestrated a grand reveal, a reckoning that would expose the treacherous cabal and restore her family's honor. "We need to lure them all into one place," Elise declared, her voice brimming with determination. A faux business celebration, something they can't refuse to attend. Theo nodded, his fingers already dancing across the keyboard as he drafted the invitations. Leave it to me. I'll make it seem like an opportunity they can't afford to miss. In the days that followed, Elise channeled her fury into preparation, ensuring every detail was meticulously arranged. The grand ballroom of a prestigious hotel was secured, its opulent setting a fitting stage for the dramatic confrontation that awaited. As the invitations went out, Elise couldn't help but relish the anticipation of seeing Carter and Marcella's smug faces when they realized they had walked straight into her trap. The thought fueled her resolve, a visceral desire for justice that burned brighter with each passing moment. On the eve of the event, Theo arrived at Elise's doorstep, his arms laden with an array of technological equipment. "Time to set the stage," he declared, his expression one of grim determination. Together, they transformed the ballroom into a high-tech command center, strategically positioning cameras and microphones to capture every damning word and action. No detail was spared, no avenue left for their adversaries to escape the weight of their misdeeds. As the final preparations were completed, Elise couldn't help but feel a sense of empowerment coursing through her veins. She was no longer the victim, but the architect of their downfall, a force to be reckoned with. The morning of the event dawned, and Elise steeled herself for the ultimate confrontation. As the guests began to arrive, she watched with a mixture of anticipation and disdain as Carter and Marcella sauntered in, their smug expressions betraying no hint of the reckoning that awaited them. Elise's gaze met Theo's, and a silent understanding passed between them. It was time to unleash the storm of retribution they had so carefully orchestrated. With a deep breath, Elise stepped onto the podium, commanding the attention of the assembled crowd. The weight of her family's legacy hung heavy on her shoulders. But she was no longer the naive victim. She was a force to be reckoned with, and justice would be served. The air crackled with tension as Elise commanded the attention of the assembled guests, her gaze sweeping over the sea of faces, some familiar, others complicit in the web of deceit she was about to unravel. Carter and Marcella, oblivious to the reckoning that awaited them, exchanged smug glances, their arrogance fueling Elise's determination to strip them of their ill-gotten gains and restore her family's honor. "Thank you all for joining us today," Elise began, her voice steady and resolute. "As you know, we've gathered to celebrate the success of our latest business venture." A murmur of polite applause rippled through the crowd, but Elise's steely gaze remained fixed on her treacherous husband and former friend. "However," she continued, her tone taking on a razor-sharp edge, "it has come to my attention that not everyone in this room has had the best interests of our company at heart." Carter's brow furrowed, and he leaned over to whisper something to Marcella, but Elise pressed on, undeterred. "For too long, I have been betrayed by those closest to me, people I trusted implicitly, people I considered family." Her eyes bored into Carter and Marcella, daring them to meet her withering glare. With a flick of her wrist, the grand ballroom plunged into darkness, save for the massive projection screen that flickered to life behind her. The incriminating footage played out in graphic detail, capturing Carter and Marcella's sordid affair, time-stamped to coincide with Elise's business trips. Gasps of shock and outrage rippled through the crowd, but Elise's focus remained unwavering, her gaze trained on the two traitors as they squirmed in their seats, their smug facades crumbling. "But their betrayal runs deeper than a mere affair," Elise declared, her voice rising in righteous fury. "They have been systematically embezzling funds from our company, lining their pockets with the fruits of our family's legacy." With a few deft keystrokes, Theo projected a dizzying array of financial records, email correspondence, and digital footprints laying bare the intricate machinations of Carter and Marcella's greed-fueled conspiracy. The evidence was overwhelming, irrefutable, a damning indictment of their duplicity that left no room for denial or excuses. As the final piece of evidence played out, the doors to the ballroom burst open, and a team of stern-faced law enforcement officials strode in, their presence casting a pall over the stunned gathering. "Carter Jameson and Marcella Whitfield, you are under arrest for embezzlement, fraud, and conspiracy," one of the officers announced, his voice booming through the tense silence. Elise watched with a sense of grim satisfaction as the disgraced pair were led away in handcuffs, their protests falling on deaf ears. The weight of their misdeeds had finally caught up with them, and justice had been served. As the dust settled, Elise surveyed the aftermath of her masterfully orchestrated reckoning. The path ahead would be arduous, but she had reclaimed her family's legacy and restored her honor. A victory forged through the flames of betrayal and tempered by an unwavering pursuit of truth and retribution. In the aftermath of the dramatic confrontation, Elise wasted no time in pursuing legal action against Carter and Marcella. With the overwhelming evidence she had amassed, their conviction seemed all but assured, but the road ahead promised to be a grueling test of her resolve. As she strode into the imposing courthouse, flanked by her legal team and Theo, her unwavering ally, Elise steeled herself for the battle that lay ahead. The trial would undoubtedly be a spectacle, with Carter and Marcella's high-priced attorneys no doubt prepared to mount a vigorous defense. The courtroom was a crucible of tension, with Carter and Marcella shooting venomous glares in Elise's direction as the proceedings commenced. Their arrogance had been replaced by a palpable sense of desperation, a last-ditch effort to evade the consequences of their misdeeds. As the prosecution methodically laid out the damning evidence, the financial records, the incriminating footage, the digital paper trail, Elise couldn't help but feel a sense of vindication washing over her. The truth, once so carefully obscured by their web of lies, now hung in the air like a suffocating shroud. Carter's attorney, a slick-talking hotshot named Davis, attempted to cast doubt on the prosecution's case, painting Elise as a scorned woman driven by jealousy and a thirst for revenge. But Elise remained steadfast, her gaze unwavering as she took the stand and recounted the harrowing tale of betrayal and deceit. I trusted them, she declared, her voice ringing with, "They were not just my husband and my friend, they were my family, and they betrayed that trust in the most despicable way imaginable." As she spoke, Elise could see the cracks in Carter and Marcella's facade deepening, their once smug expressions faltering under the weight of her testimony. The trial dragged on for what seemed like an eternity, with each side trading barbs and counter-arguments. But in the end, the mountain of evidence proved insurmountable, and the jury returned with a unanimous verdict, guilty on all counts. The courtroom erupted in a chorus of whispers and gasps as the judge read out the sentences. Lengthy prison terms for both Carter and Marcella, along with hefty fines and restitution orders. Their once enviable lives lay in ruins, the consequences of their greed and deceit finally catching up with them. As the disgraced pair were led away in shackles, Elise felt a profound sense of closure wash over her. The wounds of betrayal would never fully heal, but the pursuit of justice had been a cathartic balm, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of adversity. Turning to Theo, she offered a grateful embrace, her voice thick with emotion. "Thank you," she whispered. "Without you, none of this would have been possible." Theo returned her embrace, his expression a mixture of pride and admiration. "You did it, Elise. You took them down and reclaimed what was rightfully yours." As they exited the courthouse, Elise couldn't help but feel a sense of renewed purpose coursing through her veins. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. She would dedicate herself to restoring her family's legacy, a phoenix rising from the ashes of deceit and emerging stronger than ever before. With Carter and Marcella's downfall secured, Elise turned her focus toward mending the wounds of their duplicity and reclaiming the reins of her family's legacy. The road ahead promised to be arduous, but she was emboldened by a newfound sense of strength and resilience, forged in the crucible of betrayal. In the weeks that followed the trial, Elise immersed herself in the intricate workings of the business, untangling the web of deceit that had been woven by her treacherous husband and former friend. With Theo's invaluable assistance, she pored over financial records, restructured operations, and implemented stringent safeguards to prevent future exploitation. As she navigated the challenges of restoring order, Elise couldn't help but feel a sense of empowerment coursing through her veins. She was no longer the naive victim, but a formidable force to be reckoned with, a warrior who had emerged victorious from the ashes of betrayal. One evening, As she stood on the balcony of her office, surveying the sprawling cityscape before her, a familiar voice broke the silence. "You've come a long way, Elise," Theo remarked, joining her side. Elise nodded, a wistful smile playing on her lips. "I couldn't have done it without you, Theo. You were the ally I never knew I needed." Theo's expression softened, a hint of admiration flickering in his eyes. "You had the strength within you all along. I merely provided a guiding hand." As they stood together, basking in the warm glow of the setting sun, Elise felt a profound sense of gratitude wash over her. The path to reclaiming her life had been paved with pain and heartbreak, but she had emerged from the crucible a stronger, more resilient version of herself. In the days that followed, Elise sought solace in the company of those who had stood by her through the darkest of times, her true friends and the family members who had never wavered in their loyalty. She hosted a small gathering, a celebration of her newfound independence and the promising future that lay ahead. As she surveyed the intimate gathering, Elise couldn't help but feel a sense of peace enveloping her. The scars of betrayal would forever be a part of her story, but they had also forged her into a force to be reckoned with, a woman who had stared down the abyss of deceit and emerged triumphant. With a warm smile, she raised her glass in a silent toast, her voice ringing with conviction. "To new beginnings," she declared, "and to the strength that lies within us all, even in the darkest of times." As the guests echoed her sentiment, Elise felt a weight lift from her shoulders. The road ahead was uncertain, but she was ready to embrace it with open arms, armed with the knowledge that she had survived the ultimate betrayal and emerged stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever before. The chapter of her life that had been marred by deceit and heartbreak had come to a close, but a new dawn was on the horizon, a future brimming with possibility and the promise of a legacy reclaimed, forged in the fires of resilience and an unwavering pursuit of truth.